Well, hello, Acadia Junior High. We're going to be doing some estimating of roots, and this is Manitoba Outcome N2, so let's just jump right in. Okay, so just a quick review of the number line. You may recall that the number line has the number 0 on it, and then we can keep counting up from there to 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and so on and so forth, and we can count down from there to -1 and -2 and -3 and so on and so forth. Okay, these numbers, obviously fall all in order, and we should keep in mind though that there are numbers that fall in between. So there are going to be numbers in between 0 and 1, like 0.6, for example, falls between 0 and 1, or there's a number that'll fall between 2 and 3, such as 2.58. And there's actually infinitely many numbers that are just going to keep falling in between all of these numbers we have on the number line.
Now these numbers on the number line that we've zoomed in on do have equivalent ways of representing them. So as we've talked about squares of numbers, we know that the square of 2 is 4. So if we were to look at going backwards again, the square root of 4 would be 2, and those are equivalent. The square root of 9 would be the same as 3, and the square root of 16 would be the same as 4. So this question asks us to place the square root of 6, the square root of 4, and the square root of 9 on the number line. Immediately, we might see that two of these are a lot easier than another. This square root of 6, we don't know any number that multiplies by itself to give us 6. Whereas 4 and 9 we do know because they're perfect squares. So if on our number line we have our full numbers, we can find places for these. The square root of 4 has the same value as 2, so it would be right there. We can also put 9 on here, or the square root of 9, as being 3. So now we've placed those two nice numbers. Let's talk about this square root of 6. The number 6 falls between 4 and 9, so the square root of 6 must also fall between the square root of 4 and 9. So right between the square root of 4 and the square root of 9, we can say somewhere in the middle we'd have the square root of 6, and as an estimate we will just guess right between them. And that's fairly good as an estimate. So halfway between 2 and 3 there, if we want to put that in normal numbers, we would make a guess of around 2.5.
Okay, so now it's your turn. I want you to estimate the value of the square root of 15. Now you can use a number line or any kind of reasoning that you would like to try and find the square root of 15. Please pause the video now. Okay, welcome back. We're going to try and find the square root of 15. And on my number line, starting at 0, I go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And we can place the perfect squares. So the square root of 9 happens to be 3, and the square root of 16 happens to be 4, the square root of 25 is 5, and so on and so forth. Hey look, 15 falls exactly between 9 and 16. And in fact, it's much closer to 16 than it is to 9. So the square root of 15 must fall somewhere just before 4. We could take an estimate now that the square root of 15, maybe that equals around 3.9.
It's your turn again, so please pause the video now. Okay, welcome back. Now you are asked to estimate the value of the square root of 23, so we need to place that on the number line. And we're going to need to know what the perfect squares are that are around that. Well, the two closest, or the ones that it falls between, are the square root of 16 and the square root of 25. Now 23 is closer to 25 than it is to 16, so we'd want it over this side. So we could make a guess that it's maybe 4.8 or 4.9, and it is just an estimate, so we pick one of those that we're comfortable with, and we call that our estimate.
Okay, your turn. Go ahead and estimate the value of the square root of 70. Pause the video now. Okay, welcome back. Here I've taken the time to zoom in on the number line between the numbers 7 and 10. And we notice that 7 is exactly the square root of 49, 8 is exactly the square root of 64, 81, the square root of 81 is 9, and the square root of 100 is 10. Okay, so where does 70 fall in all this? Well, 70 is between 64 and 81. So the square root of 70 must fall between the square root of 64 and the square root of 81. We can place that around, well, maybe right here, a little bit closer to 64, but not right next to 64. So the square root of 70, we could say, is, well, approximately 8.4. That's just an estimate. That might not be true. There is one other way of estimating roots, though. You have something in your possession called a calculator, and you can calculate the value of things such as the square root of 51. Here we've already taken the time to type that in, and we get 7.14142842854285. And you think, well, that's pretty good. That's a nice estimate. But as it turns out, that is an estimate as well. This is still just an estimate, because this number actually will go on forever. There will be millions and billions and trillions of digits that will go on forever and ever and ever and ever. But your calculator sure is good at calculating at least a really nice estimate that is well beyond the estimate that we would have come up with by using our number line.